Morning, everyone. I've been enjoying reading your profiles online. I'm looking forward to reading your discussions and talking with you some more before we meet in October. I'm really looking forward to our face-to-face time. Here is my introduction, and I thought I'd record this on video so you could see and hear me and help us in our process of connecting. I am 38. I live on the edge of London. I have 3 kids. 14, 12 and 10, 2 at high school. I have my eldest is a daughter, my middle one's a boy, and my youngest is a daughter, and nothing in life has prepared me for having teenage daughters, that's for sure. My wife's name is Bev. In terms of my Christian story, I became a Christian when I was 17. I grew up in public housing in a non-Christian family. I had quite a dramatic conversion experience at a great Baptist church. I took a gap year. I worked in London for a bank. Trying to make sense of my faith in the real world, and then went to university seminary to read theology degree, thinking that I was going to become a Baptist pastor. But like all good seminary students, I met my wife, Bev, and she was involved in the first Vineyard church plant, the Association of Vineyard Churches, who were headed up by John Wimber. I'm sure you guys, many of you have heard of that denomination. Well, like any good boyfriend, I followed her to her church. I was absolutely hooked, fell in love with her, fell in love with Vineyard Churches and the sense of the need for church planting and how church planting could effectively reach people. So I ended up doing a teaching degree, was briefly a high school teacher, and then ended up as an investment broker for the next 8 or 9 years, which is a long story, but it was a great work experience. And it helped pay the bills, and that was during a long bivocational period where we were helping out with various church plants, including the church that we planted ourselves. So my wife and I, Bev, we planted the church that we're currently in 1997. I can't believe that's 10 years ago. So we were 28, we had 3 very small children. And it was in that context of planting a church that we got involved in this thing that's now called Emerging Church. Just to let you know, where I live, we have probably 2% at most, maybe as low as 1% of our local population connected to church in any shape or form. And that means that doing church well isn't good enough. There aren't people who are looking for church. Where I live, no one is looking for church. No one's interested in church. We're in a real post-Christian secular context. So that made church planting a struggle and a challenge. And we started to look around and see who was trying to make sense of the context that we're in. And that led me to doing some more research. I went back to seminary part-time briefly, all of this while I was bivocational, still working in London. Eventually I met Brian McLaren about 10 years ago, and some of you will have heard of Brian. Brian was a great pastor and theologian who was incredibly helpful to me in terms of understanding this kind of context that we were in and why this was such a challenge. Well, that study and research and theology, and by the way, theology was something I didn't think I'd ever go back to, having done it at seminary. I found life-changing and helped me rekindle my faith, helped me rekindle to the context that I was in and understand it. I ended up doing a Doctor of Ministry at George Fox University and graduated there in May last year, did the DMin program with Leonard Sweet, and Dr. Mary-Kate Morse was my dissertation supervisor, and fell in love with theology further, fell in love with George Fox University, just a fantastic place, and I'm sure some of you guys who've now met some of the staff there are beginning to appreciate what a wonderful place George Fox is. So this is a real blessing and a treat for me, being invited to come back and teach at George Fox. Anyway, I have now progressed into, I'm doing a PhD at King's College in London. And I won't tell you here, but it's got a long title, and essentially I'm looking at Christian identity and consumer context and mission, and what does that mean for how we do church. I get to travel and speak and teach regularly on issues of emerging church and culture and context and postmodernity and ecclesiology at churches and conferences. In particular, I'm involved because of my relationship with Brian McLaren with an organisation called Emergent, and coordinate Emergent UK, and that's a group of about 4,000 pastors and leaders around the UK and Europe that we resource in this kind of area that we're going to be looking at on this course. So that's an overview of me. Just to let you know, my favourite foods are curry. One of my favourite places in the world, because of George Fox, is Oregon. Oregon, I can't even say the word Oregon. Having stayed in Bend, down at Sun River. So that's me. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys soon. Take care. Bye.